Hey, so I had an idea to make a video of me reading my own astrology chart. I know it's kind of weird because there's not really a way with my technology anyway for me to show people my chart while I'm reading it. But I thought it would be just a fun video since I had time also to show people what a reading with me is like, because a lot of people kind of get intimidated getting an astrology reading. I think they think I'm going to reveal some like crazy stuff about them or that I'm unapproachable. I don't know, because like those are fears I had when I was going to tarot readings and other astrology readings myself. So kind of just wanted to make a video to like show the world what a reading with me is like. And kind of key things that I go over right now. My practice is always expanding though, because I'm constantly reading and learning new things and learning about the current energies too. So every reading is always different, but I have like a certain formula that I like to do. And as I learn more, like sometimes I'll focus on different aspects that kind of tell a story, or I'm starting to integrate like the asteroids into my readings, which is really cool, and that'll kind of like change and grow as I do, so that's really cool. My glasses are just really dirty, but yeah, so cool. My camera like refocused there, that's interesting. So this is gonna be like a vlog style video, but basically just getting right into my chart. I don't think that did anything to my glasses. No, that worked. So let's do this. So I start off by looking at the chart itself. And well, I guess I should say, like, before I actually do readings, I look over the chart. I spend 2 hours normally with the chart itself, like channeling intuitively. I meditate before just to like make sure that I'm like centered when I'm writing, because I write notes, and it's kind of just like what comes to me when I'm looking at the energies and kind of how I'm piecing everything together. And it's almost like a conversation with the other person through typing, so that's why I always have the notes available to purchase additional to like the in-person or online reading, because those can be helpful, fun to read, or great to reference to if you don't write your own notes during the reading. But yeah, so the first thing I look at is where the planets fall in the chart, because that can kind of tell us a few things about any issues or inclinations the person has. So for me, I have 4 planets in my upper right corner of my chart, and that kind of tells us that I'm used to like or a part of my life, I should say, is cooperating with others and being successful in like changing the world or like affecting my community with other people, with my relationships with other people, and through creating partnerships is a key thing. But I also have 4 things below that, which is being a bit more independent and being a little bit more homely, like in focused on my own thing. So those kind of like contrast each other, right? So in a reading, I'm reading to myself right now, I would be like, okay, you need to kind of, I'm gonna deal with things where I have to end up like balancing and taking care of myself and making sure I'm feeling comfortable in being independent and not too scared to rely on other people or to be overshadowed by other people sometimes, because in partnerships sometimes like their work is more important and you're assisting them, or you're with someone else to help you like get there. So that's kind of like this struggle that I might deal with, or a theme that's going to continue to come up throughout my life, because I have those planets in those contrasting areas, or where my planets are focused. The first quarter of my chart is completely empty, and that doesn't really mean anything, but like I remember when I first read my chart that I was kind of like, oh, like I must like not need the first like few signs, but that's the first few houses must not be an important thing in my life, but they are. Even if you see that there's like empty houses, like a huge chunk, that just means that you're there's no planets in there, so it kind of means that I'm fine like in that area. That doesn't really matter. I just anyways. So then I move on to like the basic signs. I kind of do the rising moon and sun sign first, and I call them the triangle of you because I find that they work really importantly. That was really weird. They work really importantly together. They create a triangle. So your sun sign is your personality, your moon sign is your emotional body, and your rising sign is who you kind of put out there. And if we relate all the other planets to the signs in your triangle, that's kind of like how I do astrology, just because those are your most potent energies. And if a certain planet contrasts or supports an energy really well, that's important to point out. So I always talk about those guys first and kind of talk about their importance as a whole. So for me, my sun sign is Leo. I don't know if you can tell by my hair and by the fact that I always show my face on my Instagram, because I love my face. I'm a little vain, not gonna lie. But that also is something I grew into. Like, I was never really like, look at me, I'm so beautiful. And I had to grow into that, which is really interesting to like see as an astrologer and read my own chart, because I have so much Leo in me. So my Leo sun is in my 5th house, which the 5th house is ruled by Leo. So this is like a really lovely place for my sun to be. As a Leo, like, of course, there's that kind of dominant presence, because Leo's ruled by the sun. Like, you got to think about like the sun's presence itself, and how it like nurtures people as well. And that's how I relate to Leos. Like, Leos are seen as these prideful human beings, outgoing, whatever. Like, I remember when I was younger, like, Leo and outgoing were automatically it. So I was like, oh, I must be really outgoing, and I ended up being shy at sometimes, right? But really, it's just a really great personality to have, to encourage others and to share energy, to give energy to others, to give encouragement. Leos are also known for being like generous in that way too. But yeah, then a thing with Leo again is pride. And with it being the 5th house, the trick could be maybe you're too prideful to see other perspectives. So something that I like have been working with is making sure to check myself when I'm either like invoking, like, am I thinking in a privileged way, first of all, or am I just being stubborn and I want to be the center of attention, like that other side of Leo, where just because it's not going my way or my or through my viewpoint, am I being bitter about it? And that's kind of like the lesson and the description. I usually talk about the signs in terms of like a general energy, and then like the other side to it, the lesson that can kind of come out through that energy, or some kind of like struggle. And then usually I relate it to the certain planets that are around it, and then that happens more when I get into the signs. So my moon sign is in Scorpio, and this is like an intense placement a little bit, just because the moon represents your emotional body, your reactions, and your kind of subconscious. So with Scorpio is a very reactionary sign, where you immediately go to like the worst possible like outcome, or you can like, I call it Scorpio moments, when you kind of just like freak out without knowing all the information, when really you need more information and you'll be fine. That's a Scorpio moment. So that's kind of how I tuned into my sign, was like, yeah, I get moody and like and overthink things. Like, everyone overthinks, but Scorpios tend to overthink it in a more emotional way, where it's like, this is affecting everything. I don't know. It's so it can be really intense. So especially since it's in what the moon's in my 8th house, and so that means my emotions and my own emotional body, though my outlook on things from that Scorpio perspective affect my areas of transformation and kind of like my own desire to grow and develop, like personal development wise. Another thing with the 8th house is like sex and money is kind of like the taboo, mysterious kind of elements to our world. And those are the things that I get stressed about, that I get really emotional about, that trigger my anxieties and really have an effect on how my day's gonna go. Is if I'm worrying about money, if I'm worrying about who like my relationships and everything like that, I overthink all of those things. And so that's just kind of where my moon is. But with a Scorpio moon too, you also get the elements of Scorpio that you might also just like have in your personality, but not really show as overtly. And with Scorpio, that's kind of that like moody side. A lot of people don't see me as that authoritative or like a bitch. But my Scorpio moon can come up and I can be like, no, like that's not okay with me. Scorpios can be a little cutthroat or a little like, they just know what they want, usually. Or even if they don't, they just know what they want in that moment. And then Scorpios are also very like inquisitive. They want to research and find out the mysteries of the universe. So that's probably why I'm an astrologer. Probably one of the reasons. And I'm also really into history, so like I get joy from like being in that vibe and kind of just finding out new things. So that's my moon sign. I'm kind of speeding this up just because I don't want this to be an hour-long video, but normally I talk to my client too, and like we have a longer conversation about something sometimes. Maybe this will be really long though. Then my rising sign is in Pisces, so that's another reason why I'm an astrologer. Your rising sign is, I also identify it as your personal brand, or if a stranger were to look at your Instagram profile, what kind of energies are you putting out there? Sorry, I'm drinking tea. I just did that so nonchalantly. So with your rising sign, that's kind of what that is. And I think my rising sign is very Pisces because my Instagram profile is tarot and astrology. And also just kind of like travel and stuff like that, like so like more scenes. But in general, your rising sign being in Pisces would mean that you have a more spiritual outlook on life, or you're a little bit more like whimsical and free-spirited, or that you like to connect with others and you're asking questions, and you want to be like, how do you feel about this? Another thing also with Pisces that I notice is because my ascendant is like right next to my Saturn in Pisces, so, and it's in the 12th house, so I'm very focused on like cycles ending and like how I can grow and how I can like celebrating the end of a cycle or the start of a new one. So whenever I even posted on Instagram, it would always be like happy fall, like on my spiritual Instagram it's like more like the seasons and stuff like that. But it was really funny to look back at my personal Instagram and see when I posted, and it was just like in terms of celebrating beginnings and endings, and that's kind of shown through my ascendant placement, but also through my like daily personality. My ascendant shows because I'm very focused on helping others and guiding others through their own cycles. And when I talk to friends and stuff, it's mainly about like, well, how are you doing? How are you developing through this? And like taking that kind of like spiritual take on most things that are happening to me and my friends, if that makes sense. So so those are the triangle of you, as if I'm talking to myself as another person, and so those all kind of interplay with each other, which is really, really awesome. So like I was saying, they all kind of connect to each other, and the elements in the triangle, so Leo is fire, and then Scorpio and Pisces are water, and that kind of creates steam So a lot of steam. So again, that kind of can represent being a more emotional person, either short-tempered or moody, or like a little prone to anxieties. But again, like this idea is coming to me of like warm water. You know what I mean? Like water that's nice to wade into, because the fire's heating it up and keeping it tempered, and there's a lot of water to discover, like a warm bath or something that's perfectly perfect height and perfect temperature that you can just sink into. That could also be my personality, and kind of describe another side of it. Is a comfortable person who's able to make sure that you feel comforted and that you are being like nourished and fulfilled in that way. I've never thought about it like that before. So yeah, so they all kind of feed into each other and work together. So when I look at my other signs, I'm going to be looking at my at Scorpio, Pisces, and Leo, and how they interact with it. I'm gonna probably do this video in parts maybe, just so it's not like too crazy. I think that's what I'm gonna do.